Good morning, Kathy.
Hello. Thank goodness it's Friday. That's all I have to say. What a morning already. Oh, well. Anyways, how are you doing?
I'm
That's what
doing
matters.
okay. Yeah, no, I'm good. The wind is not blowing, so
Okay.
I'm happy.
That's because it's up here.
Oh, we have just had miserable wind the last few days, some crazy windstorms. So
Did you guys get the Northern Lights?
it's so crazy because a bunch of communities all around us, I was seeing pictures of people,
Yeah.
posting,
Yeah.
and we did not get anything. And we're like, this is weird. But we did have some folks in Waterton who saw them in Waterton, which is just amazing when you're standing on top of Bears Hump and you're,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't get to see much either because, of course, it was cloudy both nights.
mm.
So we missed it. But my son, who lives up north, got a fantastic display and sent me some pictures. And it was just made me miss my home. My home in
Well,
the
you know
north.
what? I'm the same way growing up in Fort McMurray. We used to lay on the trampoline
Mm-hmm.
at night as kids and watch them. But, and that's part of the
Yeah,
beauty of being in Alberta. And I know the Northern Lights, many people all around the world saw them, but we're going to claim them.
that's right.
Right?
Exactly. They're ours. They're ours.
Yes.
They're ours. Although, funny story, just before we
Mm,
get started, of the
mhm.
Alberta's just full of funny stories if you dig a little bit. So I don't know if you remember this when you lived in Fort McMurray, although you were still pretty young, so maybe not. But um, when I lived up there, there was always every year at a certain time there would be all these bus loads of people coming, and particularly from China and Japan, like from
Really?
from the east. There'd be all these busloads coming, and I never really thought much of it. And then the older I got and the more I noticed it, I started asking questions around, like, what is this about? And they would all stay at this one particular spot to like camp out. They never stayed in the hotels or anything. They stayed in this great big field area. and and the reason, oh man, I shouldn't even be telling this story, but anyways, the reason that they would come up, and this was a major moment for them to come literally to the end of the road, like McMurray. There's nothing past that really to go
Right, yeah.
visit, and there's no, like, you can't tour back around and come down the
No.
western side of the province. That doesn't exist yet. They're working on it, but it doesn't exist yet. So I couldn't understand why are you coming here? You're not even going to go see the oil sands. You're not going to go see the reclamation sites. You're not even going to go see anything here that's worth seeing. You just come to stay and camp out at this one place for 2 or 3 nights, and then you leave. Well, it was because in their culture, they believed that if they conceived a child under the Northern Lights, that child would be brilliant.
Shut up.
Yeah. So I said, well, how does that explain all the dummies around here? Very jokingly, obviously, but it was just so funny
Okay,
that,
is this like a
okay,
Northern Alberta myth or is this legit?
I don't know. I know the buses were there. I don't, like, I saw all of that. So I don't know if somebody was just playing with me because that's. I would believe something like that, obviously. So maybe someone can bust the myth for us and say, yeah, this is actually what happened, or
All
no,
right.
Kathy, you've lost your mind to a whole new level. I don't know. But anyways,
We are going to
fun
start
story.
a new video series and it's going to be Alberta forest myths or something
Right?
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is
Anyways,
actually this is actually episode 2 of our new series
yeah.
called X Factor Female Voices on Alberta Independence.
Yeah.
Um, we are doing this in collaboration with the Alberta Nation Directory, which
Hmm.
is this fantastic directory. If you want to know anything about anything that comes, in regard to Alberta independence, events that are happening, articles that have been published, kind of who's who, that type of
Yep.
thing, go to albertanation.com. Um, just
Bookmark it.
absolutely, yeah, they do such a great job.
They do.
So we are doing this in collaboration with them, which is fantastic. Love the fact that we see so many different independence groups, organizations, individuals working together,
Yeah.
collaborating on different projects.
Yes.
Um, And today we are going to be interviewing someone that I've loved her from the minute I met her.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Kellie. And we just met her. We were holding a meeting in Okotoks, and she reached out through Facebook and was like, "Hey, I would really love to come to the meeting." So I actually picked her up. Oh no, it wasn't in Okotoks. It was in Calgary. I picked her up because she lives right off the highway too. So on my way up there, I just swung by, picked her up. She was literally standing out on the road. I just like jump in.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was so fun. We took off up to this meeting in Calgary, had a great meeting, came back. And I mean, I don't live in Calgary. It was an area I was not familiar with. Well, the two of us got talking and were laughing so hard that I completely missed all the prompts on my GPS.
Oh no.
And the next thing I know, it was like late at night and we were wandering around somewhere in Calgary because we were just laughing so hard. Anyways, that's the kind of relationship I have with Kellie. Like it was like instant connection.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk to her today, and trying to think if there's anything else that I need to say before we bring her on. I don't think so. I guess just another reminder that we have not really pre-prepped any of these. This is just a conversation. All the opinions expressed are those of those who are expressing those opinions.
Yeah.
And let's just have another fabulous conversation. So we will bring Kellie in.
Hello.
Hi, Kellie.
Hey there, Kathy, Angela. Great to see you again.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for being willing to do this.
Well, thank you for providing the platform. My goodness, this is just, I've seen the numbers, it's just taken off, and I think it's just so awesome. People are ready. They're ready for information. They're asking questions, and they want some answers.
100%. Yeah. And yeah, our episode 1 kind of took off on us. We were like, whoa, okay, we might have hit, I don't want to say hit a nerve, but we might have, like you said, Kellie, people are looking for information. And I think it's just really fun to meet other women across the province, kind of figure out what makes them tick. Why are they involved in the Alberta Independence movement? That type of thing. So Kellie, why don't you just kind of take it away from there? Like, tell us a little bit about who you are, what brought you to Alberta Independence, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Well, thank you. Well, I was born and raised in Alberta, of course, Southern Alberta, actually 4th generation agricultural industry. So my dad was mixed farming, grain plus livestock. And so, yeah, there's the basis of my background. And of course, being and raised around a small town as well. So the values and the morals coming from that ground. And through the years, watching on TV, like I could see, I remember all the years, and I was quite young, but you look on there and there's Manitoba, Ontario border, all blue, red. Next election, all blue, red. Well, I was pretty young, politics wasn't on my agenda, but I can recall all that. And so as time went on, had a family, did businesses, did all kinds of different types of businesses. So entrepreneur by nature. And then I seen in 2015, when there was that shift of power within Alberta, I was like, whoa, stop this, hold the bus here. What is going on? So there was a gentleman by the name of Jason traveling around Alberta at the time speaking. So I thought, okay, so I started listening to him. That was where I thought something is off here. No, this is not Alberta. There's something going on. So that was kind of my first initial. It's literally taken more interest in politics than I ever had before. Besides the background, I'd already been introduced lots. For those folks who've been around for a while in Alberta, they know a fellow by the name of Gordon Kessler. Well, he was raising his family in our area that I was living in Southern Alberta at the time. And so, of course, there was lots of talk about separatism back then and what Gordon stood for and the party he was with. He literally was down in Ottawa. And I seen what happened to him and his family, you know, when certain people want this stopped and what they are prepared to do. So I was close to that at that time as a very young person. So fast forward to today, I knew I wanted to align with something to do my part, because I knew that nothing can happen unless people literally stand their ground. You've got to know what ground you stand. From what I could, when I was raised, is like, if you don't know what ground you're standing, then you'll stand on someone else's ground, or they'll stand on you, literally. So
Right.
that was just kind of the Western culture ways of, you know, some of our thinking that, but you better know who you are and what you stand for. So when I came across your guys' platform, it was like, yes, that is the one I will align myself with. Not that I didn't align with myself with the APP and some of the other great platforms out there, but I knew that the numbers never worked. You guys explained it so well at your gatherings. Two major things. Number one, the numbers just don't work. So you can talk around all the emotions, you can talk around everything all day long, but here's the numbers, here's the Senate, here's the House of Commons, here's the history of why it was set up like that. Hello. So that's why, as a kid, I seen all those years, it just didn't matter what we voted out west, it wasn't going to change.
Right.
So yeah, so here I am today, joining up with you ladies and having lots of fun. And the second part was the nurturing, understanding that from a women's perspective, you know, and you guys said when we get gather, you know, always have some refreshments and some treats and stuff, because there's another aspect that is missing. And I knew through the culture, being a fourth generation here, listening to all the stories of my grandma and grandpas, luckily they were well into their 80s. I knew them well, got the stories from my great grandparents through them. You know, you always have to, the men and the women, when they come together, they can be very powerful. But you got to understand the positions within that. So, and to me, that's what Alberta really stands for. There's a lot of so much culture here, so much.
Mm-hmm. There is a lot of culture. You're right, and it is. The men and the women do need to stand together. There's no doubt about that at all. And some people have kind of challenged us on just focusing our message towards the women. But the fact of the matter is the women receive the information differently, right? What matters to us as opposed to what matters to men are two different things. They come together in the end. They complicate, well, sometimes complicate, but complement each other in the end. But it's kind of like two sides of a train track. They're both going in the same direction, both going to get us to the same spot. But it's what is important and what matters to each of us that makes the difference. And yeah, like to gather around food and beverage, and it's just, it's kind of, it's in our nature, right, to want to look after one another and feed one another like that. So that is how we designed it, and it's working, and it's getting the message out. And then what we're finding now, with this being our second video, like the first one just took off so much, is that I think there might be still some belief that well, we're still a little bit alone in all of this. And so by getting your guys' voices out there, by showcasing you, we're just regular people. We're not big politicians. We're not CEOs. We're not anybody's. We're just moms and wives and entrepreneurs and community lovers and nurturers and all the rest, right? When other women who are in that same spot see us going and go, oh, okay, there are more of us than we realize. And I think that's what's happening. And so then those numbers will continue to grow. And when they hear your story, Kellie, of, you know, you're now generational in seeing all this stuff. And then we've got some people who finally just opened up their eyes to it yesterday. It's okay. We're all there now. We're all caught up now. So let's continue to move forward together. And I love the fact that you just have some really, really deep roots in this province. And that just really comes out when we talked, you know, privately on the bus down to the rally in Edmonton. We got to sit beside one another there and find out a little bit more about each other and where we come from and what our beliefs are. And so then that makes me wonder, because you grew up in Southern Alberta, you're still in Southern Alberta, what have you noticed, if anything? Has there been a big change down there in the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years on how people view Alberta's position within Confederation? Or was it always there? Is it new? Like what's kind of going on around you with as this independence movement continues to grow?
Well, that's a great question. It's also a loaded question. It is
Yeah.
so big.
Yeah.
Because it can cover so many aspects. So, you kind of look at the systems that you have to navigate in, whether we talk the educational system, the judicial systems, the health systems, all of those have changed. So since I was, or when I hear my grandma and grandpas or my mom and dad speak, all of those have changed. And I would say, to summarize, because we don't have a whole lot of time, to summarize, it is, again, the community that has been taken away. It's become so individualized. What was a good portion of that, again, is different cultures coming in and not, they think differently than we do, is in the Western culture. And so I grew up in a Western culture, which meant everybody helped everybody. And that's a very feminine role. Feminine have community because why? Because we don't have the strength. When we need help, we have to ask people, typically our husbands in the beginning, or people, my dad out on the farm, everything was open all the time. The neighbors all knew what each other had, and we all helped each other out all the time. Now, fast forward today, well, that's still happening within the Western culture. So today I get to experience quite often, I do some security work. So I choose what events I go to, which is a lot of the rodeos. And I usually get in behind the chutes. That's where I get situated. That's my post, is in behind, and just watching, making sure people who don't understand, you don't just walk up behind a horse. They want to take pictures. They want to pet them. These horses, they're trained. They are trained for certain things to do. You just don't cruise on up to them. They're not a dog or a domestic dog or a cat.
No.
And so I'm helping these cowboys and cowgirls to keeping these people away from the horses while they're able to focus on their events that they're about to participate in. Also at the back of these chutes, which is still alive and well within this Western culture. And I keep saying culture because there's some provinces in this country who don't think we have culture. Well, it is deep. And that is, I should have looked it up, but there's always these signs on the back. Quite often, you'll even see them at rinks quite often, hockey rinks, but definitely it's mainstay within the rodeos. And that is, there's little ones, the children are watching the adults. So it's about how are you acting as an adult, because the next generations are watching you.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful. I wished I should have brought up the words, but that's all these small town rodeos, that's what they have.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any rules or regulations around? Did anyone tell them to do that? No. And that's within the Western culture. There's so many codes, I call them. They call them the Western codes. They're just there.
Yeah.
And you're not taught them in school. They're within the being. That's how they live. There's morals and values. They help, and they're watching. Quite often I'll get the cowboys and cowgirls, hey, they come up to me, hey, thanks so much for doing that. The politeness and the please and thank yous, for the most part, yes, there's the odd one that kind of gets off track, but quite often they get brought back around because it's kind of like a vibration, like a piano, a guitar. When you play one note, it's starting to vibrate onto the other notes. Okay? When you're within that culture, it vibrates over. You don't like it, boom. They will boot you out if there's some pretty nasty stuff going on. So yeah, around rodeos, that's what the rodeos today to me are holding this culture intact, as in the public view. Because people don't get to see what's happening out on the ranches, out in these foothills, the amount of ranchings, there's 4th, 5th, 6th, there's getting 7th generation ranchers out there now.
Yeah.
And they don't, the average person, they don't get to see what's, they're out on their horses, riding the range, working their cattle, and yet navigating their space back into when it's time to go sell the cattle or the grain. Let's look the same as your farmers, they're navigating their space they're all in nature. They all move with a rhythm, with the cycles of nature.
Yes.
Okay. My dad, every morning, knocks on the barometer. You know, he's getting up because you had to move with nature. He's a farmer. And the same as a cattle, you know, you have to get feed ready. So again, within this culture, a lot of people, they don't realize who come here, you to survive, there's certain things when you live out in the country, there's certain things you have to do if you want to survive the winter, because it's cold and it can get really nasty. So if you think about to my grandma and grandpa's age or my great grandma and grandpa, what they had to do to prepare for the winter. So I call that grit. There's a grit in this culture that is basically unspoken of. And it's because you live in nature, and that grit isn't something that's taught. It's just within you if you want to survive.
Yeah,
if you don't
very
want to
well
survive,
said.
there's lots of vices out there to take you down.
Yeah, very well said. With that, then, I'm thinking of some conversations that I found myself in last week that were kind of enlightening. So everything that you just described, I think, maybe you agree, disagree, let me know, feeds into that rural-urban divide. There is a disconnect within the boundaries of Alberta of how the rural folk think and how the urban folk think. And it's not, I don't think it should peg one against the other necessarily, but just really brings up there is a difference. There is a difference. And having lived in both rural and now urban, I see it plain as day, but not everybody does. And so, yeah, like am I right? Like am I seeing what I think I'm seeing with what you're explaining? Because what you just described is not what you see in the city life at all.
I think that's a really great point to bring up, because another aspect of my life I've got to experience to date is being in the tourism industry. Okay, within the tourism, we took tours, people into the backcountry, ATVs, snowmobiles. So that's what I did for several years as a business. I realized during that time there was a huge movement of people wanting to get into the backcountry. Now I'm in the mountainous areas now. I'm not out on the prairies or even the foothills. I'm in the mountains over by Golden, BC, actually. And as I see the numbers increase, which today is absolutely exploded. I've been out of the industry for over 10 years now, but I've still watched the numbers around Banff Lake Louise, and people, it is exploding. Kananaskis. I've driven out to Kananaskis when I used to go there, you know, and nobody was there basically. Now, there's people lined up. So I know the folks, they're looking for something. And where was it lost? I've seen it through the years. I've seen it because when I was a little girl, practically any of my city cousins, like I have a lot, fourth generation, I have a lot of relatives. And many of them live in the city. But back when I was a little girl, typically everybody had a connection to the country. They had an aunt, an uncle, a grandma, or grandpa that they would go to and visit in the country. So as little kids, we were always playing with the city kids because their parents were coming to the country for the weekend. To do what? Well, you didn't stop work. They were literally out on the tractors or whatever, feeding, doing chores. But that connection was still there. So fast forward to now, I'm in tourism and I see the connection. They're wanting the connection. And today it's just over exploding. So people are wanting to get back into nature. They want to connect. They just, how do you explain something that really isn't explainable? It's an experience.
Right.
It's an experience. It's part of who you are, of being who you are. And to do that, you have to go out and experience the world. You can't sit here. I could sit here and play video games all day long, but it does not give me the same experience as going out there and hiking up the real mountain.
That's right.
I
so
love
there is
that,
a disconnect
Kellie.
from the reality. What's real and what isn't.
It's so true what you're saying. And you know, like I grew up mostly in Fort McMurray and then spent, you know, the next however many years in different cities, San Francisco, living over in Europe, Calgary, Edmonton, and now living down in the middle of ranching country. And, you know, like the cattle drives, they're literally, sometimes they're through my backyard if things don't go quite right. They're literally, or the other day, my husband and I are chasing the neighbor's horses down the highway because they got out, and we witnessed it, and we're like, okay, we got to keep track of them until we get some help. You can't, it's like you said, it's not describable. There is a culture here. There is a cowboy culture here that you can't really describe. It is just, it's ingrained in every interaction that we have with our neighbors. We see it, we feel it. It's that grit that you're talking about. It's that you're there for your neighbors. You're helping each other out. It's passing it from generation to generation. The last cattle drive that went past here, there was a grandpa with so he's on one horse and his 5-year-old grandson is on the other horse. And he's showing him how we do it. And they've got the dogs out and the whole bit. And it's just, we're just astounded and amazed at it. And like you said, we can use words like grit and neighborliness and that type of thing to describe it, but you're still not really describing it. And so when I hear like the folks out in Quebec say, oh, Alberta oil and gas is not a culture, you don't know our culture. And in a way, oil and gas is a culture, because Fort McMurray, when you're living up north there and it's minus 40 and the guys are still out there working to bring, fuel and energy to the world, that in itself has a culture as well. And then we have the cowboy and the horse culture. And it's just, you have to kind of experience it to be able to really see it for what it is.
That's right.
And they've intermingled. If you look at the history throughout Alberta, the cowboy culture, we'll call it, along with the oil and gas culture, they come together really well. Well, why? Well, back to the facts. Where do you drill for oil and gas? Out in the country. You go down the hill of Calgary and drill for oil and gas? No, you're out in the country. So they're dealing with the farmers, they're dealing with the ranchers, the landmen are, and they are dealing with them. So what ends up happening quite often, they end up working in oil and gas, especially as time has gone on, because it's been very difficult to be able to live off the land now and produce enough money to even, a lot of these young farmers, they're leaving. Why? The family farm. Because it's really difficult to make money in farming.
That's true.
Or ranching. And people look at these big pieces of equipment and they think, oh, wow, look at this. He must be pretty rich. No. Come on, you guys, do the numbers. See, people won't run the numbers. I was lucky. My dad, I look back now and I am so grateful, even just for something fun to do. We'd sit down in the middle of winter and we'd work out how much per acre it was to put in an acre of wheat.
Right.
Wow.
And he's sitting there giving me all, well, here's all the expenses and getting ready. And then fall, we sit down again and say, okay, this is how much per acre we got for the grain, etc. So he was showing me skills, life skills that, people don't get to, none of that's taught in school.
Yeah.
Parents teach you that. That's not taught in school. It's so unfortunate.
It is.
Doing a spreadsheet of, your family income and your expenses per month. Once credit cards and debit plastic came in, like people don't even exchange cash. I worked in the bank for years. I went to college, of course, did the business thing, went into the banks, and I realized, I thought, holy smokes, at that time, people quite often Friday, they come in, they get their $100, $200 worth of cash for the weekend. When it was done, it was gone. End of story. They, Saturday night, they'd spend it all on who knows what. And they say, hey, you want to go so-and-so on Sunday? No, I have no cash left.
Right.
Like that was part of the rural culture. You did not overspend. You had this much money. That's it.
That's true.
That's true. What I realized in the rural cultures as well is insurance. I should have looked up what year insurance came in. Like I remember my grandma and grandpa talking about there was no insurance. So if something burns down, what happens? The community
you got to rebuild it.
They build a new barn. they build a new house.
Yeah.
Okay, there was no insurance to cover in that. And I thought, oh, isn't this interesting for two aspects? Number one, when I was in the tourism industry, of course, you're out on an ATV. There's all kinds of things that can happen out in the bush. So, you know, we have a waiver, 3 pages long, you have to sign to try and protect us. People read this, and of course, right on, they said, well, you could die. There's wildlife out, there's bears, there's cougars, you can die. There's rocks that can fall on you. You can fall into the river. And people would look at me and they says, well, I can die. I says, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, you can go out there. So I'll give you your money back. You've already paid. I'll give you your money back right now if you're too scared to go out in the bush and have an experience on an ATV. And they looked at me and like, so it's begun being responsible for your own actions. We do our best to make it safety. Okay, you do this while you're out on the tour. If you don't, we're pulling the key because now you're a detriment to yourself, first of all, and all the others.
Yeah.
So again, back to the rural culture, the Western culture that's within everybody. And I'm talking to city people because I see it. Because then they wake up and they go, holy smokes, it's not only myself, but it's these other folks. In the rural areas, that's what they knew. Their actions, what they did within themselves, within their families, also had an effect on the whole neighborhood, meaning all the rest of the farmers and ranchers. If they let their horses and cattle all run rampant, or even aren't feeding them, because that's why they break down the fences to get into somebody else's feed.
Yeah.
So the insurance thing was, yeah, like my grandpa, my mom would say how he'd sit up all night long because they had an old cold stove, and in the winter, minus 20, minus 30, and no insulation in those walls. You can remember all those whole houses, they had no wall, had no insulation. He'd sit up all night just to make sure the house didn't burn down. So someone was alive, you know, a little fire here, a little fire from the coal.
Yeah.
But that's what they did. You know, that's the grit. That's what they did because they were committed to, I don't know how else to put it, but survival.
Right.
Or committed to life. Okay.
Which explains why.
People now, they're so relaxed because they're so comfortable. They have their heat, their water.
Yeah.
They have everything so at their fingertips. Fast food, fast food money, fast money. You know,
right.
Everything's fast. Yeah, you're a little disconnected from nature because it's not going to go fast. You want to grow a garden, you can't grow it overnight.
Well, Alberta was not built on the concept of comfort.
No. Not even a little bit.
No.
Not even a little bit, which would explain why that tenacity within us is there to say, you know what, Ottawa doesn't get it. They don't.
No.
There's such a disconnect between the East and the West. They don't understand us, and whatever. Like, it's not offensive. They just don't. So
it's a different experience.
It's a very different experience, and I think, Kellie, you just described it beautifully. And because they don't get us, because we do see things differently, we think about things differently, we value things differently, is why we're saying, you know what, it's just time for us to go our own way. We can't make this work. It was a fine experiment. It failed, and time to go.
Yeah.
Time to go. And I think more and more people are seeing that. And I love how you articulated it, because I think a lot of people couldn't. They know it. They know it here. They maybe even know it here, but they wouldn't have been able to put words to it. And I think, Kellie, you just did that beautifully for them to maybe help connect those dots. Like, why do I feel this way? Well, you know, if you're here any more than 2 or 3 generations, it's in your veins.
Yeah.
That's why. That's why. And it's not wrong. It's nothing. There's nothing wrong with feeling that way at all. In fact, it's a gift. And so let's use this gift to make life better for the following generations to come, because that's why people originally came here when we were the last best West, was to make things better for generations to come. Now we have to rescue it from the clutches of Ottawa. And so let's do it.
That is so true. And that, Kathy, you know what? That's just a really great point. We can probably wrap it up here. Kellie, you have shared a lot. You've given me a lot to think about when it comes to what is Alberta culture, and the fact that, yeah, you have the background that many of us do not. I am not a fourth generation Albertan. I'm, second generation, maybe third, I guess, but actually not really. No, but no. My grandfather came from Germany, so like was born in Germany, that type of thing. And yeah, other family members that were from Saskatchewan that came over. But anyways, Kellie, you have really shared a lot, and I understand a little bit better your passion for Alberta now, and why you are willing to fight for it. And just so everybody knows, Kellie is one of our chapter leaders that we've just put chapters, AWIN chapters around the province, and we have various chapters of ladies who are going to be doing meetings throughout the province. So it's just not Kathy and I running around like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off. So Kellie is in the Okotoks, Calgary area, and she'll be doing meetings in the future, very near future, for us. And we really appreciate you, Kellie, for your willingness to get involved and to do your part. It makes a huge difference.
Well, thank you. Thank you again for providing the platform. And thank you to the folks who listen and who are out there asking the questions, getting their answers, and finding what it is they're looking for. Because there's a lot out there they're looking for, and finding the ground. I call standing your ground.
Yeah. Well said.
We need that discussion. That's fantastic. Well, thank you, Kellie. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Angela and Kathy. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Oh, that was great. She's awesome.
Oh my gosh. We've been able to meet the most remarkable women in this province that we wouldn't have been able to any other way if we didn't do what we were doing. We would never.
The strength.
Unbelievable.
It just emanates from her.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I'm so excited to see who else we can convince to come on. There's a couple that I've reached out to, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. But maybe the more gals we get on here just sharing their stories and talking and why this is important to them, the more we'll encourage others to do the same. Not even on these videos, but just in their own communities. Don't be afraid to talk to your neighbors about this. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's totally okay.
100%. 100%. We need that connection. We need that nurturing, like Kellie said, the nurturing. We need that even in the cities. And, a point that she made was, there was no islands. Nobody was an island.
No.
If your neighbor's barn burnt down, you all got together and you all worked on it together. And what affected one affected all. And it's still the case, whether those in the city want to believe it or not. It is the case. What affects one does affect us all.
That's right.
So that was a very good reminder. Oh, really grateful that she came on. So
Powerful.
for those who want to know more about what we're doing, we don't have a website. We're doing this on a shoestring. We're very minimalist. But we do have an email. So please reach out to us. Our email is right there on the screen. Reach out to us. And we would love to hear from you. We'd love to get your feedback on the video. You can comment on, the video itself on YouTube. We love the conversation. And if you want to get onto our newsletter, we have a newsletter that comes out once a week, all about education, getting information about an Alberta pension plan or an Alberta police force. Or any of these things that we need to see changed in Alberta, and especially Alberta Independence and what is coming that way. So our newsletter, we hope, is very helpful to folks. We always include lots of links and articles and videos that you can share with your friends and family and start that conversation with them. And then, of course, we are always looking for folks who are willing to host us in your community, whether it be in your home, a cafe, a restaurant, a community center, whatever. We are willing to come. We have a short presentation that we give to people that is just enough to spark the conversation about how did Alberta get where it is? Why are we still here? and what are our options to make it better and to create a better future for our families and our children.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So invite us out. We come where invited. People always say, when are you coming here? Well, when you invite me, that's when I'm coming here. So that's how this works. You put some people together. We will happily show up with our little handout, and doesn't matter where you are, we'll come.
Yeah. And if you have liked this video, please do like it.
Share it.
and subscribe and share it. And check out some of our other videos on our channel as well.
That's right. Awesome. Angela, always a treat.
Yes. Thank you so much.
We'll chat soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.